Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the latest edition of Terrace Talk. Another huge game for Norwich City on Saturday, a trip to Staffordshire to face Stoke City. And with that, delighted to be joined by Dan from the Every Step Along the Way podcast. Dan, it's been another eventful season for Stoke, probably more eventful than maybe seasons gone by. Your sixth consecutive season in the Championship, but you're currently 19th, only 3 points above the drop zone. What's the mood around the Potteries at the moment?
Surprisingly positive, considering where we are. I think it's because we were sort of staring into the abyss a couple of weeks ago. The fans wanted certain people removed. That has happened and been replaced by, the good old club legend brought in just to rally everybody up. And that's sort of happened with John Walters. So he's come in as sort of like a director of football, technical director kind of role. He just seems to have sort of galvanised everyone, reminded everybody, what the meaning for playing for Stoke means, if you like. And everything seems to be good. Now, we are only 3 points above the relegation zone, so that can soon change. But I think, 3 wins from 6 after such a long time without winning is just sort of getting the, returning the ship, if you like.
Yeah, I can imagine disappointing, maybe twinged a little bit based on the fact you invested a lot of money in the summer. Of course, at the season that started under one of our former bosses, Alex Neil, sacked sort of early December. Correct decision at the time. You were 20th in the league, or maybe looking back, a twinge of disappointment.
Yeah, disappointed that it didn't work. In the fact that since we got relegated and Gary Rowett spent over 50 million quid in the summer, we came down, and he didn't make it work. Nathan Jones came in, spent more money. He didn't make it work. Michael O'Neill then came in and did a great job, really, for about 3 years of constantly having his budget slashed so that we complied with like FFP regulations and all that. He did all the hard work. He got youngsters in on loan to try and balance books. Selling his best players every year, and then when we sort of freed ourselves of sort of the Rowett Jones spending, that we sort of got rid of Michael O'Neill after he'd done all the hard work. Brought in Alex Neil. It's like, right, okay then. At the end of the season, he's got a chance. I think he had 6 players last summer, so the opportunity for him to get his own squad and mould his own squad. He's got some money to play with as well. And we let him do that. We let him bring in 20 odd players and then sacked him a few months later. I think that's the disappointing thing, because it's like we sort of not learned from previous lessons, because now we've got Steven Schumacher in now, but are we going to be in the same situation where the next managers in are playing catch up for the previous managers sort of spending? So we'll have to wait and see on that one. I think the difference is, whereas we were spending 10 million plus on Benicophobe, Tom Ince, Sam Vokes, I think now we're spending money on people like Million Manuff, who's 22, Wouter Berger, who's 22. So we're spending it on younger players who I probably see as an investment. So it shouldn't be as bad this time, but time will tell. As for the manager himself, I think it was the right time for him to go. I think Sheffield Wednesday was his last game, and we were just absolutely dire. It was as if we put 11 strangers on the pitch. There was no desire, no passion. There was no idea of what they should be doing, how to play, and they suffered for it. And in the end, obviously, Sheffield Wednesday scored the 94th minute winner with their only shot of the game. That was it. Then I think that was the final sort of nail in the coffin for him. There was no coming back from that.
No, and you, of course, replace him with a man that's used to kind of working with young players. You mentioned sort of signing a lot of young players. Steven Schumacher, of course, done well at Plymouth. Picked up 18 points from 15 games. How have the fans taken to him? Are you sort of pleased with what you're seeing?
Yeah, it's a lot more front foot. It's a lot more on the front foot. I'd say it's a lot more Stoke style, if you like. Now, people might think Stoke style is Tony Pulis, long ball, lump it up and that. Not necessarily. I think Stoke just like to see proactive football. Like, there's a lot of sort of the modern day football. I think Alex Neil fell into that with Stoke, was you can take sort of 10 passes to sort of move 3 yards forward. And I think with Steven Schumacher, he likes to be on the front foot. He likes to be pushing, high press, trying to win the ball back early, not letting, demand sort of effort from his players. And I think that sort of then goes into the stands, and the fans appreciate that. I think the players, they got it at first, but then I think there's always that sort of initial burst at there, and then that sort of drained off a bit. And I think it did need sort of when Walters came, sort of mentioned it before, when he came and there was a bit of a rallying cry, and I think he had one-to-one meetings with the players and sort of said, you are better than where you are, and you need to be putting your effort levels are probably why you're not where you are. I was a bit honest with them, and since then they've been just they've been fantastic. Really, you can't fault them. Even the games we haven't won, we've been well in. Like Leeds, we lost at Leeds, and we could easily have got a point there. And some of the Leeds fans were saying that no team has been brave enough to sort of take the game to them at Allen Road like we were. So that's fair enough. Can't ask more than that.
Yeah, lots of positivity there. 9 games to go. You sort of hinted at it. Do you think you've got enough to stay up? You've still got some fairly tough fixtures on paper: Hull, West Brom, Southampton. But fancy your chances?
Yeah, I actually think that Saturday's going to be our toughest game we've got left. Since Josh Arden's obviously come back in for you guys, he's you're firing goals in all over the place, aren't you? So yeah, I think it could well be our toughest match. We have got other tough ones, and we do generally seem to do well against West Brom for whatever reason. So we might be able to get a result there, and then I think there's enough games against middling to lower end of the table for us to get probably the 3 wins that we might need, 3-4 wins, a couple of draws. So yeah, I think we'll be all right. I am overly positive, though I always am. So maybe that's that talking. Yeah, you're asking another Stoke fan, you probably get a different answer.
Yeah, it's been a bonkers season. I can understand. You're hoping for a bit of optimism. You did sort of hint at it. It's something I'm sure Norwich fans will be interested in. You sacked your technical director, Ricky Martin, fairly recently. Of course, had a long stint at Norwich in a similar role. So I think there'll be a little bit of interest in kind of the sack in there. Glad to see him gone. I kind of guess, given the kind of recruitment issues and stuff, maybe one that's for the best that he's departed.
Yeah, and it's interesting. I mean, obviously, I'm not privy to what happens behind the scenes. You hear rumours, this, that, and the other. But what is interesting is that the whole mood of the club seems to have changed with his departure. Whether that's related or not, I don't know. I can't say that. I can't speak for the players involved or the people involved. But there just seems to be so more of a positive sort of energy coming out of the place, and so much more of a happy sort of mentality from everybody. So yeah, he departed. His record wasn't great, like I say, in the transfer market. He has picked a few gems out. I'll give fair credit to him. Wouterberger, Bejono, 2 Premier League players in the waiting, I'll be honest. But at the same time, it doesn't. The fact is, like I say, the energy around the place just was really sort of toxic towards the end, and that does seem to have lifted with his departure. Whether that's related to him or just a change, I don't know.
Yeah, you mentioned Wouterberger. I was going to ask you who's the key man so far this season. I think he's missing through suspension this weekend, which a few of us are probably a little bit blessed from, and from a Norwich City perspective. But who's maybe the player to watch, and who's been the star man so far this season?
It has been Berger. Clear. We do a sort of man of the match poll, and he's got more than twice as many as anyone else. He's got 12. And he missed a couple of months of the season as well, and didn't sign for us till after the season started. So yeah, he's running away with it. However, since he's not available on Saturday, I will say the wingers are 2 good players. So Million Man Huff came in from the Eredivisie in January. He's hit the ground running. Looks like a perfect player for English football. Likes to get back as well as a winger, so he's not just all flash and tricks and that. He will sort of, he's one to get you off your seat when he gets the ball, and like I say, but he doesn't mind putting the work in as well, which is good. And the other one is Bae Jun-ho, a South Korean 20-year-old lad on the other wing. And I say he started sort of in the midfield. Obviously, coming from the Korean League, was quite lightweight. Bulked himself up as the season got on, and he's starting to look a real player now. So yeah, we were just actually debating on our podcast because he's been called up for the Olympic qualifiers, which means he misses the last 3 games of the season. So we were sort of debating, sort of obviously Stoke, let him go, not let him go. But then obviously with him being South Korean, he gets the exemption from the national service if he gets a medal and all that. So I was like, I don't think you can stop him really.
Yeah, that's fair enough. With that kind of a formation style of play for Saturday in terms of Stoke, I mean, as you mentioned, kind of Schumacher's maybe brought back the Stoke style formation. How does he set up?
to me, it changes on a weekly basis. I mean, we make about 5-6 changes most weeks, which is funny. But last week, we've been playing 4-3-3, and then last week we match Preston up and went 3 at the back with wing backs, 3 in midfield, and then one Bejon who actually played off Tyrese Campbell. As for this week, he could well go back to the 4 at the back, but I'll be honest, I don't know which centre half he would drop with that. It wouldn't surprise me if he did stay 3 centre halves and have McNally in the middle to go and sort of match up with, as the more physical of the 3, to go and match up with Barnes, sort of step into. I think does Barnes play a little bit deeper off Sargent?
Yeah, he's more of a number 10 in terms of Norwich's system, yeah.
Yeah, so it wouldn't surprise me if, McNally sort of, when the ball's sort of coming to Barnes, he's the one who sort of steps into that as the more physical of the 3. And then the other 2 can sort of become more compact. So I wouldn't surprise me for him to stay 3 at the back. And with Berger not being there, he might just go with the two in midfield and then go back to playing 2 wide men as well as probably Eddie's down the middle.
Yeah, it sounds a little bit like Norwich often changing the players and the system. Just intrigued to get your thoughts on Norwich and kind of the playoff push more generally in the Championship, of course. Norwich still, they moved up into 6 last Saturday with the victory over Rotherham. Coventry and Hull don't play this weekend, so it feels like a big game for us. I mean, have you seen much of Norwich this season at all from sort of the TV perspective?
Yeah, you see, I mean, one player really surprised me for Norwich, like John Rowe. I mean, he seems to be, every goal he scores seems to be a cracker as well. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, that is fair to say. Yeah, he's got a goal from almost anywhere. I think header, shots from distance. Yeah, he's got it all.
Yeah, fair. I mean, and obviously, Sargent is the one who sort of stands out, doesn't he? I think he. Is it fair to say he maybe has most bearing on your results? Like if he's there, it's a big sort of pick up and that for the rest of the team.
We missed him badly. Kind of, he got injured late August, right through till Christmas. He was out, and that spell is kind of why we're probably not in the top 4-2 sort of mix more than the sort of 6th, 7th kind of battle.
Yeah, I think as well. Obviously, down that right side, you've got Sarah and Stacey. I think that's he could well be troubling sort of Gooch. He could have his hands full on Saturday. Trying to sort of keep them too quiet.
Yeah, of course, it's a huge game for both, and with that, gonna push you for a score prediction. Norwich won 1-0 in the reverse game and beaten in the last 6 meetings. But Stoke have got their own battles this season on a decent run of form, as you mentioned, 2 wins in the last 3. So, yes, how are you feeling ahead of Saturday, Dan?
We are due some goals at the Bet365 Stadium. We've not really had sort of a topsy-turvy one way then the other goal fest for quite a while, and I think you're the club to come and give it with us, to give that with us. So I'm going to go for a 2-2. I think a 2-2 draw. I think we take the lead. You come back in, go 2-1 up, and then we'll peg it back later on. Either or the other round, I don't mind. Yeah, but just nice, entertaining game. And everyone goes happy with a point.
Yeah, draws draws a very familiar score for Norwich on the road. Not so good on the road as they are at home. So there's a little bit of optimism for Stoke fans. And finally, Dan, do you want to plug your podcast and where Norwich and Stoke fans can find your content?
Yeah, so it's Every Step Along the Way. You'll find us at Every Step Along on Twitter. We've got a Facebook group as well, and just all podcast platforms. Yeah, we come out every Friday. Every Friday we have about 5 or 6 a.m. We'll release the weekend preview, and then if we've got a midweek game, we have one out on a Monday as well.
There we go. We'll link all that good stuff down below. I had the pleasure of being part of their podcast this week. So any Norwich fans that want to hear my thoughts ahead of this one, of course, go over to Dan's podcast there and you can hear that. Dan, do really appreciate your time this evening. Of course, a massive game for both teams on Saturday. But for their own respective reasons, Norwich will be hoping to pick up another 3 points, which would be a huge boost. Given obviously, I mentioned that the Hull and Coventry I mentioned, Stoke hoping to stay up in the Championship. I think they'll probably have enough, but we'll see what we get. With that, we'll sign off and we'll see you next week.